What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Talks with Kells, and this is your famous boy, Ratanda, Mr. Bayanda, a well-known politician and a pastor. But I'm more concerned about, I know it's still an early question, Pastor Bay, how come that name surfaced?
Let me bring my salutations and fraternal greetings to everyone. Kamalaga Pastor Bay is actually a stage name. It's a name that was given to me when I was performing.
Okay.
I think a lot of people knew me as a religious boy growing up. So I think there's just a whole lot of different elements about who I am and how I grew up. And music has also been a great part of my life. So when I was performing your secular music, you were R&B. A lot of people could not associate me with secular music. So when they saw that, it became a surprise. They go, oh, he's a pastor, but he's also Bay. So they said, Pastor Bay.
How did it feel, though, when someone gives you such a name, Pastor Bay?
No.
I'm thinking, sorry to cut you, but I'm thinking of that's why they refer to you as Pastor Bay.
Not necessarily. It's I didn't know there was a charm to me. So while I was performing, I take it that a few ladies were swept out of their feet. So that's how it came about. So I adopted it, but it's a name for the people. If people choose to call me that, if they choose to perceive me as someone who comes in different shades, I'm Pastor Bay to someone I'm Bayanda, to someone I'm leadership, to someone, whichever way you're comfortable to address me, I think I'm good with that.
So you cannot be put in one box.
No, I cannot be confined.
You're versatile.
I cannot be confined. Injalo.
Politics.
Sure.
How did it come about? What was your interest in politics, or what led you to go to politics?
To tell you the honest truth, my brother, that's a very interesting question, because I never deemed myself to be a politician, even growing up. In fact, my close proximity has always been people who are politically inclined. And I've always been lobbied, coming back from a space of church and being somebody who finds himself in platforms where you motivate and in leadership spaces. Okay. It's always been a case where people would lobby me to form part of these pre-existing political parties. I never bought into it. My journey as a Christian and as a believer has led me to discover God outside of the confines of church. And as such, the more I delved in and the more I became, a dedicated student, not only of the Bible scriptures, or not only of religion. When I became a student of the history of Black people as well, I became a Pan-Africanist. Okay. And as such, the more I became more conscious of my Blackness, I started subscribing to a lot of different ideologies. Even my religion, as much as I still subscribe to Christianity, I've come to recognize the fact that the Bible is simply a compilation of a lot of historical accounts of Black people. Okay. So I needed to find God within the context of Black history. And my journey has made me to embrace my African nature. And it has made me become more inquisitive. The more I develop more questions than answers, it has made me understand that I'm on a journey of learning. That's why I became a perpetual student. So when I became a Pan-Africanist, I had an Afrocentric approach to religion, an Afrocentric approach to education as well. But I realized that as much as we attempted together with the co-founders of my political party, is that we started a civic movement. It was called Afrocentric Movement. Okay. We were to advocate for the interest of Black people. And we didn't want to subscribe into politics because it was going to polarize us, and it was going to cause us, to put a dividing line between ourselves with other Black people. But we realized that our impact was minimal. And we've come to recognize that our lives from birth to death is politics. So whether you like it or not, our problems are man-made. Okay. And we've come to recognize that if you're going to effect any change within the political sphere, we have got to participate. We recognize that our problems begin in those municipal gatherings, in that council. So if we are ever going to have a voice there and become a voice for the voiceless, the eyes for the blind, we become, this silence voice that needs to be amplified. We need to circumnavigate our way into those municipal corridors, and that's what we did. This idea of getting into politics was not necessarily a first passion for me. I never even regarded myself as a politician. I choose to prefer to call myself more of a philanthropist, more of a patron, more of somebody who loves his people more than they hate themselves. So I regard myself more of a motivational speaker as well, and as a public leader. It's just so that we recognize that if we're going to bring any change, we are compelled to participate within the system, and that's how we got into it.
You said to me, you don't subscribe to politics of hungry stomach.
Well, let me tell you the honest truth. The political landscape is such that in our country, because we are historically disadvantaged, it's rare to find quality leaders. Why? Because I love what Che Guevara says. He says poverty is a parent of two things. It either gives birth to a revolutionary or it gives birth to a criminal. The true set of leaders that we are yet to discover in our generation, men like your Steve Biko, men like your Chris Hani, men like your Winnie Mandela, men like Thomas Sankara, men like your Petrus Lumumba, yes, men like your Che Guevara, and other great leaders. Even when we talk, even within the the black space of Pan-Africanism, from the Black Panthers, and when we go as far as who's this man? A great leader of black people. I just forgot what's his name. The fiber of great leaders has already been eroded because of the desperate times that we're living too. Everyone is squabbling for resources, such that even though one grew up with a good intention to lead people and to be a great leader that makes an indelible mark, when you get into that lion's den where there's just a whole lot of corruption, because unfortunately democracy is another slavery camouflaged today, because when you get into the system, you easily get swallowed up, even if you are of pure heart. So I'm not saying I do not subscribe to the politics of the stomach. I do not subscribe to corruption. You understand? In the absence of good people, evil will continue to prevail. And that's why whenever we do have a few leaders that still remain, we need to try and harness that good leadership. We need to try by all means to retain those moral fibers that remain in our community, because unfortunately, for the only way for evil to prevail is only if good people do nothing.
Okay. As you understand, we were supposed to have leadership Solomon.
Yes.
But he couldn't make it. Unfortunately, he didn't give us a reason why. But we'll carry on with the marathon.
I want to say that to Solomon that he did well for not coming, but it would have been bad if he came to defend the narrative of bad politics. But if he came to participate in a conversation where we drive a narrative as young people to say that there's a serious need for us in the absence of good leaders to bridge the gap, then it would have been a good session with him, only on that condition. So
I think it's fair enough.
Sure.
We want to tackle the socio-economical issues in Ratanda. There are a lot of things that are transpiring within our landscape, and we see those things, but I feel like we are not doing anything. Everyone is texting from the comfort of their homes, but they are not on the ground. One of those things, the thing that has been circulating around is human trafficking. I think there was a lady that was taken by Iteze Mhlope. They found her Fosoras, and I think she came back Napa. I don't know how she came back now, but she made means to come back this side. So the number of trafficking seems like it's rapidly growing. How can we find ways to mitigate those risks?
You see, my problem with us as a community is that we don't take things serious until we have a first-hand experience or it happens to us. Today I came into this interview distraught. Even as I'm sitting here, I feel perturbed. My friends, my closest friends yesterday got hijacked last night in the late hours of the night, in the comfort of a friend's house. And these people, you can see that it's organized crime. There's a syndicate of these people that launch these crimes. It's not something that just happens randomly. It's calculated. And I tell you the honest truth that these organized crimes involve also local individuals that give out information on which houses to take. And on top of that, to exacerbate the problem, we also have the problem of police who are also party to these criminal activities. And then now it becomes even so rotten to a point that you don't know where the solution should come from. If the people that should be protecting this community are participating in those organized crimes, it becomes a problem. So these guys were sitting around 11 o'clock as they were sitting in the house. These people with heavily armed criminals just invaded their space at gunpoint, took their cell phones, took their cars, 2 BMWs. It was a blue one and a white one, and then they actually kidnapped them, went with them, and made sure they drain whatever they had in their accounts. So to come back to that issue of trafficking, something becomes even more serious to us until when your sister is abducted, when it's your wife is abducted. You understand? I'm saying to you that no one is coming to save us. The solutions that we're looking for are not going to come from any president or from anyone who lives in the provincial offices of the ANC or any political leading space for that matter. The solutions must come from the people in this community, because we are the ones who are experiencing, these things in our everyday lived experiences. You understand? So the community must come together. The community must organize itself, and organize itself such that we put systems in place. In my street alone, we have whistles. I remember last week, there was a lady, there's my neighbor that was invaded by a bunch of criminals as well. They know that she lives alone. They demanded for her to open the door. And the lady just went out, whistle, and she simply blew. It didn't take even a minute for us to respond to that. So it means that if we come together and come up with innovative plans to put in place to mitigate against these things, I think that's the only way we're going to get out of this. Because the police, I'm even told that the police station is locked up at 9 o'clock. Yes, and then the people are alleging that the police say that they are afraid of criminals. So if the people that are supposed to protect us from criminals are afraid of the very same criminals, then where is our escape?
So how do we deal with such leadership from the police? If they're going to say, at 9 we are closing, we are afraid of criminals. How do we bring them to justice to say, okay, guys, you need to be accountable for such acts, but now you can't because at 9 o'clock you're closing? Where should we get help from?
It's my point exactly. I'm saying to you that whatever you're experiencing in Ratanda is just a microcosm of the bigger rottenness that we have in the country. So I don't want us only to discuss about the symptoms. I want us to discuss about the root cause of the problem. Because what we can do, we can discuss about how to numb the pain. But have you dealt with the actual sickness? The sickness is starting from the head up there. You understand? The rottenness we have in the country is a reflection of the poor governance that we have. We have poor governance not only on the ground, we have it from the head. So if the rottenness is from the head, where you have the same president of a country who conceals money, knowing that there are laws in this country, there's somebody we are talking about who is supposed to be a custodian of the law. He must uphold the law to its prestige standard. If the same person can violate the laws that he himself is representing, where is there hope for the ones on the ground? Why? Because the criminals today are having a field day because they know that even the prisons are bloated. Prisons are so incapacitated right now with so many criminals. They know these people that if they commit some crimes, on a period of time, quickly they'll be back on the streets again. So there's no solution. It's a vicious cycle. Do you understand? So the solution here is for communities to organize themselves and put systems in place and even adopt what these white communities are doing. White communities are militant. What do I mean by militant? It means that they understand the significance of owning a firearm. If we are not ready as a community to have that conversation, because when a black man owns a firearm, he's classified as a criminal and a potential threat to society. But it's okay for us to see white people going up and down in ShopRite to having a firearm on. And we need to deal with those stigmas first as well. To say that starting with every man who has a home and has a wife and has children, every man must recognize the need to protect your family by all means necessary. And if it means good, because there's nothing as embarrassing and nothing as destroying as a man who is invaded by criminals in his house and is vulnerable with only merchants and knife. I don't even want to talk about criminals that own firearm, but I'm just talking about merchants. If somebody enters your house and slaughters your child before you and rapes your wife next to you and you are vulnerable, you can't do anything. I think that is the most irrecoverable thing a man can ever go through, knowing that you could have put systems in place to protect your family. So it starts with every man saying that I will make sure that I'm going to protect my family. And then it starts with every man saying that I'm going to protect my street. And then starts with every man saying I'm going to protect my ward. Every man saying that I'm going to protect my community. I'm going to protect my town. So it begins from there. If we don't become patriotic and if we don't become people who are jealous about our own towns, then it means that the solution, we're expecting it to come from Jesus Christ. And it's not going to come from Jesus Christ. Why? The problem is that when black people start succeeding and having a stable salary, the first thing they think is to relocate and go to a suburb. But who must come and protect your town? Because your roots are here.
But that is a safer place to go.
I'm hearing you. But I'm saying to you that part of the problems that we're having in this country is that we are no longer having people who are patriotic. We're no longer having men who are territorial. Men who are saying that because I was born here, I was born for a reason. I could have been born in KwaZulu-Natal. I could have been born in Cape Town. So the reason why I am born in Ratanda, it is because there's an indelible mark that I ought to live a Ratanda specifically. And I ought to protect Ratanda by all means necessary. Why? Because you are the son of this soil. So if you are the son of this soil, that means that your destiny is tied to this place. If by compelling circumstances you find yourself going out to further your life and to progress your life, that's why you are always expected to come back and give back to your community. Whether it's through monetary value, whether it's through motivation, whether it's through empowering a child to go to school. But unless we have people who are saying they take pride to their own communities, take pride to their own countries, will never survive. We are the only people in South Africa who are not patriotic. Do you know you can't go to Swaziland and say anything bad about the president? There are certain places that you can't go and even litter. Tina, we don't understand anything about being patriotic, about people who are jealous about our own country. That's why we don't see the importance of border gates. Everyone can just flock in and we can easily be given, other people can just pollute our space because we've got nothing to preserve. We don't see any need to preserve. That's why even when we go as low as teaching about recycling, we teach people to love the environment that they live in and to protect the environment they live in. Yeah, but so it begins with the mind.
You agree with that one?
No, the thing is, what I wanted to say is, most cases we've seen this happening from decades to decades. You come present your case, we do say, okay, you're fit enough to be a president, right? We appoint you, cool, you're president. Then when you're at that point where you're like a president, then you start neglecting what we spoke about. We've seen that happening from presidents to presidents. So personally, I feel like people are good at selling us dreams. Then when it's time to act, then they act some type of way.
So do you think they are all the same, or?
I think Maseba Suti, they act different. That's how I feel. Personally, I think Maseba Suti, they act different.
You know, I agree with my brother to say that, you know, people are good at selling us pies in the sky. And democracy allows for those people to thrive. Remember, everything boils down to the quality of education that our people have been given and the quality of leaders that they become. I'm saying to you, when you look at the state of politics in our country, it is so bad to a point that people can literally buy votes. And it's embarrassing. You go to places like Sharpeville. I was there with the members of PAC, young people, predominantly young people. How they postulate and how they speak is a reflection of how deeply embedded they are about issues. Unfortunately, we live in a microwave generation. Yeah. Our young people are in a deep slumber. They are not aware about anything that is happening in the country. That is why it's easy to even patronize an older person who has been subjugated for far too long and has been relegated to the back for a long time. Yeah. With a simple bottle of beer, you can buy his vote. With a simple pack of groceries, you can buy people's votes. At the eve of elections, people can discount and not consider the fact that for the past 4 years, you have been sitting there and drinking in public spaces just like our politicians parade today next to our eyes. Yeah? But on the last, and you will complain with them, but do you know on the last week of elections, the same person will come to you who has been complaining about him for more than 4 years and convince you on something tangible that you can hold with your hand. It means when now you have quantified the future of this country and your future and the future of your children to a plastic pack of groceries. That's how pathetic our people are. And that's because of miseducation.
But Bayanda,
yes,
I'm not working. Any councillor or any mayor comes to me and say, I'm going to give you maybe a 6,000 grocery. I'm in a critical state right now. I'm not thinking about anything else. The only thing I'm thinking about is to get rid of the hunger. What should I do? Because there are no jobs. There's nothing's been created for us.
I understand where you're coming from. And I'm taking cognizance to that submission. Because a lot of people are going through that right now. What I'm saying to you is that what separates boys from men and what separates girls from real women is what they know that others don't know. When you know some of the things that we know and when you have opened up yourself to information, you know that you can't sell your soul so cheap. What do I mean by that? It is because I need you to understand. Scripture is clear. It says that what benefits a man to gain the whole world and in turn lose your soul? I'm saying to you, Kells, as I'm sitting here boldly with all courage, that I've been approached for far too long. I've been promised pies in the skies. Kunabantu have been trying to cajole me to participate in certain things to the detriment of a lot of people whose aspirations and dreams and confidence is tied to me. I'm not over-exaggerating my importance, but I'm just saying that empilweni, we can't all be evil. Empilweni, we can't all sell our souls. You understand? I have come to a place in my life where I'm taking my poverty with pride. Poverty with a little bit of dignity left to it. Because a lot of people have unfortunately become esquissers all in pursuit of comfort and living. And a lot of men don't even realize that they have been castrated. There's no longer manhood with them. Because if you have to live your life sucking up to another man, it means that you have given up on your own tabako. You understand? And that's how a lot of people survive. And that's how you find a lot of people also who are smart, who you grew up with thinking, this man is the next leader. And then suddenly you hear him reason like a group of people. They think the same. They are like robots. They are like zombies. They do the same thing and they no longer exercise their own minds. Why? Because when you get into politics, you lose your own opinion. Suddenly you must reason according to a certain faction. You must reason according to a certain group of people who reason in a certain way, even if you oppose those views. But if your salary is tied to a certain ideology, then it's difficult. And he who feeds you controls you.
Exactly. But I want to come back to the point that everyone has a price. Maybe you haven't found the right price to be bought. We're in a personal.
Agreed.
All right, maybe you must substantiate further.
Maybe you're expensive. But should someone maybe come, let's say 6 meter, hardcore cash, can you say the same thing?
I'm not saying Guti comrades, I'm not saying Guti being a revolutionary and being a leader means Guti you must deny yourself. I'm not saying Guti the revolution must be associated with poverty. I'm not saying that. I'm simply saying that while I'm fighting for my space to exist and fighting for my space to feed my own family and take care of my own family, I must never do anything that will violate my conscience. If there's an opportunity for me to get 6 million through corrupt dealings, I am looking for 600,000 through honest living. So I'm saying to you, I'm acknowledging the fact that power corrupts. Power corrupts, comrades. I don't want to lie to you. Once people are in power and once people are in a position where they can make decisions and make things happen, those people, they will utilize that opportunity. You understand? I'm saying, Futi, I don't even want to, what's the correct word? I don't want to speculate on something that I'm not there already. You understand? I don't want to reason from a position that I have not felt. From where I am right now, I'm being honest with myself. And for me to jump and say, Maseng offer 6 million, what will I say? I don't know. I have not been offered that. I have not arrived there. But what I'm saying to you right now is that I'm answerable to my conscience. And everything that I've done up until this juncture has been through consultation with my conscience. And I've always lived from my inner anarchy.
And you'll cross that bridge when you get there.
We'll see.
6 million.
We'll see. We'll see.
6 meters.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
We'll see.
I want us to discuss again this thing, Yama potholes. It's a major effect at Ratanda. A lot of accidents are happening, and our mayor isn't doing anything. In fact, those people are not doing anything. What is the way forward to get their attention without being vindictive?
You see, the first thing also, Itola, when you raise issues of the potholes, especially on these main roads, what they will tell you, those who exist in those municipal buildings, they will tell you, Guti, that's a provincial road. And a provincial road is the responsibility of the provincial leadership.
Okay.
But my counter argument is that these roads are cutting cross through Lisedi.
Exactly.
So if you are going to abdicate responsibility and say, Guti, it's the provincial leadership, who must push provincial leadership?
If not you guys.
So my argument has always been that, to say that you cannot just by virtue of telling me, Uguti, it's the competency of provincial leadership, then I must not question this leadership. This leadership is been placed there by the people so that they champion the issues that affect us locally. And another thing that I will tell you about potholes as a gesture is that the reason why there will never be a permanent solution on potholes, it is because it's a money spinner. How? There's been a number of ideas on how to bring about sustainable solutions to. I even know a very close friend of mine, Heidelberg, he lives in Rensburg, but he has a family like Ratanda, came up with a very eco-friendly way of bringing potholes, even goes as far as the material that is being put there is rubber material that is being put to patch those holes, and it has been proven scientifically and been taken to the lab to prove that this thing has more durability than your normal asphalt that is used to cover the roads. But you know why they will never adopt such innovative ideas? It is because it means these people from the municipality angeke bazokhona ukudlisa abangani babo. Because the more there's potholes, there's more of these temporary tenders that are issued out, not with an intention to bring about permanent solutions, but so that they can always issue out those tenders so that people can always. I know I've done patching of the streets in potholes. I've seen how the government funds are being abused. You know, so
you can abuse them better.
They are not looking for permanent solutions. They are looking for means to always have problems, because when there's problems, there's an opportunity to make money.
So if you were in but I'm something. So if you were in that position, as you've seen that circle.
No, I was there as a business person, obviously
but
bidding for a job.
Everything.
Yes.
Would you abuse them better?
If I was,
if you were in a higher position.
No, but abuse is a wrong term. I would use it better. Perhaps that should be the term. You know, but you know that the issue of power, Bafet, we must take it serious, because you see, without promoting corruption, but you must look at how white people, how they did their corruption. Because when you look at where we are today, we are in worse conditions than we were under the apartheid regime. And remember, now I'm talking about our neo-colonialism, because our colonialism is systematic and it's even economic. So, ngifuna understand nangithi why our struggle is even worse. Because look, the apartheid government was decent enough to allocate even big spaces, even when they stole. The land thieves gave our people, our mothers, better space to live, better the land to live in, than what this current government is giving to the people of Obetinkosi, to the people of Inkandla. This government of ours, who also at some point they are claiming good now, they've been in the struggle, they've been in the trenches. They were there during the apartheid regime. These are the same people who are our biggest oppressors today. They oppress us to a point where discriminate in your motherland. There was no issues of electricity such as we have right now. There was no what we call today recessions this country has gone through, and the economic turmoil that we are in today. During the apartheid regime, can you tell me, in this current dispensation, when you are called a born freeze, what is free about you? Because education is very expensive even today. How are you born free when you don't even have a place you call home? When it's time for you to be allocated ama RDPs, you are given a flat pesul. Is that what you're telling me? There's no dignity for a black man in this country. There's no dignity. So that's what we are dealing with.
Chief, there's a question you wanted to ask. Okay, Mom.
Well, going back to the problem of potholes, if we are speaking about the material that I think it's Israel who came up with such. Isn't there a way to maybe give him a chance as a community to display whatever he came up with and see if it works? Like, can't we have people that come and say, okay, we are giving you a chance to do this? What is closed up in giving people opportunities to maybe permanently fix the problem of potholes? Why isn't he given a chance? Because now we know about it. It's something that we know about.
Thank you for the question. I think if we're going to talk about the community witnessing it, I think he has done due diligence in as far as getting witnesses from people he believes that if these individuals see this idea, wherever they are in their spheres of influence, they'll be able to preach the gospel just as we are doing right now. We're preaching the gospel of what this young innovative mind from Ratanda called Israel has done. He has done well. We have seen it, most of us, and now we are telling the world about it. And to tell you about Israel's idea, it's not just a local solution. It's a national solution to our problem. And this idea has a potential to make him a billionaire. Yeah, but you see, the problem is that there's no political willingness. If there's no political willingness, no one is going to give you a platform for you to launch the idea. You know why? Because it speaks about a permanent solution and more problems. Whenever there's problems, that's where they continue to issue out tenders so that their friends can give them a chunk of that money back. So, to answer to that question, Yoguti, can't we call him and sit him down and engage? I'm saying to you, because it talks to development, it talks about skill development, it talks about getting someone from election empowered. How do you perceive Israel being empowered election when there's so much bigger projects here? But namanje, for you to get builders, a simple thing as builders, you have to have imported people from Lesotho, from all other neighboring countries. A simple thing as a bricklayer, a simple thing as a plumber. We outsource everything in this community, even the things that are used on a daily basis, the bricks that are used there in building those houses, the bricks that are used to do paving. By now, with all the projects that were done, even under the Constitution and what we call the CSI, Social Corporate Responsibility, with every company making millions here, there's a percentage that they need to give back to the community because they are feeding from the funds that are allocated from this community and they are feeding from our economy. You have BAT, you ask yourself, what a major thing BAT has done. After many years of getting and milking money and using our parents, ukuthi baba sebenzele yini into concrete engazithi bayibuildile? Is there a hospital they build? Is there a school they've built? Current Beef is named among the most richest people in the world. The greatest thing he's ever done was to build Tukulong and build houses at Tukulong. But that's far less. That's a drop on an ocean. Compared to the millions that he has harnessed from being simply here. You understand? So I'm saying to you, I don't want you to think so far, because when you talk about this idea, that's a national idea that we're talking about. But we're talking about simple ideas to say that with the small projects that we have right now, aerodrome, where there's going to be a big airport here. There's no plan to empower locals. There's no plan to absorb locals and make them millionaires through the many funds that will be circulating in this community. And when you want to talk about just the issue of Israel with the potholes, which is a national solution, where else we are failing to build a place, a training center that will empower local individuals so that they become capacitated. Ukuthi ba manufacture itina zala ilokshin, si manufacture ama paving wala ilokshin, and manufacture cabs zala ilokshin. So if we can't be given a platform to come up with local solutions, then we don't have power ukuthi senze enforce national solutions.
I think they don't have any comment based on that. Last point. The issue of rape. This one is a very, very sensitive one. And I think, I'm not saying we should orchestrate the way we are handling it, but I want us to be sensitive about it. The issue of rape. I don't know if I'll be given a freedom to express that. There was a sister who said she got raped, and by a fellow brother named Usubusiso Slai. I was with him in the ANC. I was with him on the SACP. I was sad to hear those news. I won't lie, but I'm not trying to push in any agenda. It's an issue, a community. It's not about politics. It's far from politics. How do we handle such things? How do we stop the rape? Because it puts less dignity on us men if such things are happening. I have a sister. This one is really hard. So if my sister is walking down the street and then there are two guys that are following her, already in her mindset, her life is in threat. Yeah, so that is the main concern. So I want us to find a solution. Uguti, how do we stop these things from happening? I know we are not heroes. We are not supermen. We are not heroes, man. But how do we find solutions to mitigate such issues?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very sensitive topic in the way rape. I want to go back and say, when we talk about issues of rape, we need to address fundamental issues. And by fundamental issues, I want to say that there's always been an attack against the black family. There's a growing animosity between a man and a woman. And I don't want us, again, to look at the issues at face value and think that when we are approaching the matter, we must deal with the symptoms again. There's a root. Where is the root? A black man has been under attack for a number of years. Remember, black men, even from the times of slavery, a black man has always been abused. There's always been an attempt to emasculate a man. And one of the first attacks of imperialism and the white man was to always try to put a division between a man and change how a black man perceives a black woman. Today, a man is not defined by the quality of a father he is to his children and the quality of a husband he is to his wife. He's defined by his bank account. And we as black people have been stripped of our identity, have been stripped of our manhood to a point that we hide behind symbols. What do I mean by hiding behind symbols? The things that don't really matter, we put so much emphasis on. We are hiding behind materialism, hiding behind the labels of expensive clothing and all of those things. Not that I'm saying that I'm discouraging the wearing of those things and the buying of those things, but I'm saying that if it's a cover up for something that is missing, then it just remains cosmetic. We are bleeding. We have open wounds, and the society demands for us to hide those wounds. Hence, a high level of suicide, hence high results of depression. Why? Because you are the only one who knows the truth that inside you are dying. Even men today, when I'm not speaking in defense of men, but I'm trying to paint a picture of the animosity and the great divide that exists between a man and a woman, to a point that because we are historically disadvantaged, a man, through societal standards, when he goes to work, uthola ukuthi ufika ku-environment angayijabuleli ne-environment bengasiphupho lakhe lokusebenza khona, but because of circumstances ugcina usettler for umsebenzi onawo, because you have to put food on the table. On top of that, mawufika emsebenzini ubaba omdala uphendula umntwana, bamphendula umntwana omncane, bamgijimisa, bamthuma up and down, bamthuke noma kanjani. So he's made to feel like a small boy. When he gets to his house, he becomes a lion. He's angry endlini yakhe because emsebenzini bamphatha njengomntwana, so makafika endlini ufuna ukuveza ubudoda bakhe. And then they end up being abusive. And all these things, they come with even the fact that we have lost our culture. We are a cultureless generation. We don't know the value of a man. We don't know the value of a woman. Men today have reduced women to sex objects. And we do know that, bro. Even on our conversations. You measure nanoma sihleli singamajita ukuthi half the time the things that we even talk about, they dehumanize and they reduce women to second-class citizens. And the issue of patriarchy does not begin even today, because all those things, they come as a result of trying to define ubdoda ngokuba aggressive and taking things by force. Even through medieval days, even in Bible days, women were reduced to second-class citizens. That's why you find such abusive scriptures in the Bible, as it, let a woman not preach and stand before men. All those things are a picture of a patriarchy that was already existing during those days. Even in the days of our forefathers, when we talk about concepts of polygamy, when we talk about arranged marriages, women were not given a platform also to coexist with men and compete with them on an equal platform. But the problem is that when we start having those conversations with feminists, is that we are now forced to talk about issues of gender role. And my issue as a conservative individual and as what I would prefer to term as a bona fide believer, I believe that nature dictates on certain things. Men cannot compete with women on certain things, and women cannot compete with men on certain things on the basis of what nature has made natural. We don't even have to talk about those things. But when we come down to issues of rape, there was a time when I was sharing a sermon in church one day, and I said, there's what we call an abused spouse syndrome. I'm trying to paint a picture of a broken society. You know what is an abused spouse syndrome? An abused spouse syndrome is a sickness among women, even in times past, where indoda mayihlangana nomuntu wesifazane mayime naye fani ihlali aggressive, imbiza rough, makamila mgobi isandla, he must be a bit aggressive. Yeah, so we ended up defining ubdoda in that manner to some extent, where when a man beats up a woman, ngenxa ukuthi abantu besifazane bayijwayela kakhulu, makamita a romantic guy like Kells, who is romantic, who knows how to take care of a woman. Those women are accustomed to such toxic men. They deem Kells as a weak man. Why? Because to them, indoda fani hlali ikbiza rough. When a man calls a woman through poetic words, it is tantamount to weakness. So you go, it cascades, it comes down, and then now you go to the modern times that we're living in, that women can preferably wear anything they prefer to wear. And then when men see a woman wearing like that, they deem it as an invitation. Uguti amgene. And they say uguti, they justify that, but uguti, it was the way you are wearing it is inviting. I do not condone, and I beg to disagree. But at the same time, I want us to go back to the first argument I made. We are a cultureless generation. There's a reason why Muslims subject their woman to a certain way of dressing and all of this. It's always an issue of a blueprint of a culture. Because with liberty, there comes responsibility. And this is a collective conversation that we have. Freedom that is not channeled becomes destructive. How do I mean? As much as some religions and some cultures, they tend to be strenuous and abusive at times. But results, the overall results, when you look at how that whole community grows up, becomes very distinctive, because what you see is that the level of teenage pregnancy as a result of those cultural norms and cultural practices and cultural rules that are in place, as a result, teenage pregnancy is minimal in those races. Divorce rate is minimal in those cultures. Rape is minimal on those cultures. You understand? So what I'm saying, in essence, without promoting any narrative on either side, I'm saying that we as black people, we need to go back to our culture. We need to go back to our roots. We need to go back to our humanity. We need to educate the next coming generation. And the formidable years of conditioning is from birth to 12. The problem is that we want to talk to a man who has already been habituated, who is over 21, who is now rigid. And you want to tell him how to behave as a man, how to behave, when you never taught him how to behave as a child, how to behave as a boy. You understand? So it becomes our responsibility, those who are conscious today, to say that how men must perceive women and how women must perceive men. That's my parting shot.
Okay.
In what you are saying, I would like to ask you, Niti, don't you think it would be much better if, because I know on social media we've made it a thing of men conferences, it being a thing. So what is stopping men from actually making these men conferences and speaking about such issues? Because it's not only a thing that starts now. And it is quite tragedies that you find a partner who's supposed to be there and love you and respect you, treat you as a person of stranger things. So don't you think that if men actually took an initiative to have these men conferences and be the main solution of whatever women go through, or as a man, you said something about roots, like go and attack the root as to where these problems come from, and if they can be solved without it being a violent thing. Because I've noticed that men, it's quite shady for a man, or they are perceived as weak if they speak about their emotions and what they went through when they were young. So what kind of programs do you think men should have so that we can minimize this problem of them being a problem at home because of how they've been treated where they work or how they grew up?
Thank you. I honestly believe that the future of any community, any country, lies with its youth. Hence, I'm saying that with the older generation, it becomes difficult to re-educate. I'm saying to you, the problem that we're confronted with is systematic and it's very psychological. How is it psychological? It is psychological in a sense that you can call men to a conference and speak things that are tantalizing to the ear. But then a man goes back to the depression that is systematic, that says that because you are black, you can only qualify in life to go and read and then go and become a professional slave and go work for someone who never finished any higher institution learning because simply they've inherited the business from their father who stole the land. And then they continue. So I'm saying to you, all these things, they emanate from something that is causing our brothers to drink uncontrollably today. When we drink as black people today, most of the people we are drinking with, they are not drinking from a position of happiness and pleasure. They are drinking their sorrows away. All those things, they have a ripple effect. Do you understand what I'm talking about? I'm saying to you, an average black man today is not where he would have wished to be. Among black people, it's rare to find people who are living their dreams. It's rare because the system, it has already predetermined that you must spend over 24 years of your life in an institution reading. And the things that you are reading are things, the standard is that we measure your intellect on the basis of how good you were able to memorize in school. Not over that's why you find most of the dumbest people in life are the people who are holding degrees and diplomas. Why? Because they can't think outside of the confines of something they learned in the institution. Yeah, so they have to tell you how to label a low caste. So we are Puma when a school after 24 years, ukwazi ukulabel intethe. Mara, you have economic problems, but you can label in debt. Yet you have people let's call it back to about doma, what is about Agnala we are called. Because they are streetwise. Why? Because the education system we have even Yona is flawed. We still have a Eurocentric education system when we should be having an Afrocentric education system, an education system that talks to our ethnicity, our creed, that talks to our image as black people. So that when we find ourselves and embrace ourselves and where we are and start building from there. But the problem is that we all want to be integrated into the society of our oppressors.
Yeah.
It's been a difficult one. Pastor B.
Show me later.
Thanks for joining us today, man. It's been a pleasure. It was an insightful conversation.
Thank you.
You have given us all the information that we needed, but I must highlight that we are still a growing brand. In us releasing this video, there's a lot of criticism that's going to be directed to us, but we'll grow with that.
Wait, just to keep it short, are we as South Africa or as black people ready for the land? Kanani, just to touch on it. Kanani, just a minute.
Were we ready to lose it?
That's a good question.
It's, you see, it's a fallacy. It's a lie from the pit of hell to say that black people are not capacitated to handle the land because of what happened in Zimbabwe. What happened in Zimbabwe was an economic sabotage because of the sanctions that were imposed when Mugabe demanded the land back. And he did not demand the land back overnight. He gave them time, and they knew. And there were formal agreements for him to recover and take over the land after giving them time. But in South Africa, or with Zimbabwe also, when you talk about miners, farmers, we're not talking about white people. White people only specialize on the business of farming. They have systems in place. They have the administration. But the actual farmers are black people. The one who's tilling the ground, the one who's on the tractor, the one who's putting the seeds there, it's actually black people. So if you want to sabotage black people upon giving them land, what you do, what you are going to do is that take away the capacity as far as financial muscle to run the farm. Take away the administration. Take away the resources. Lapho seningasakhona ukuthola ama-chemicals. Lapho ningasakhona ukuthola ama-seeds anywhere, they are scarce. Because remember, there's a value chain among even these organized businesses of white people. One deals with these chemicals, one deals with, and all of them, they are conglomerates. Conglomerates that work together, just like the Pakistanis. If you are saying tomorrow you want to collapse the economy of the Pakistanis, it's just like somebody who posted something on Facebook. We have started. We are competing with the Somalians and the Pakistanis now. Nantis build their shop next door. You can't compete with the Pakistanis. Why? Because they are a conglomerates. Abanye badila stockpiling. Abanye badila ma warehouse. Abanye badila supply product. Abanye badila ngama tuck shop. So you can't. It's a value chain. So money circulates among themselves.
Spiderweb doctrine.
Tina, we don't have that. We don't have money. In fact, whatever we get in this community, there's nothing that circulates among us. Not even. But you go just close as here, in Indian town. Money circulates among these people several times. One owns a clothing shop here in the Indian town, and they are loyal to their culture. They are loyal to just like the Chinese. A Chinese person can find you having a product it is, and then someone China on a product it is. Will never come back to you because it's a violation of their own culture. They're prepared to buy from a Chinese person because they understand the importance of keeping the economy within your people. So money circulates among themselves. Tina, the only money la circulator khona kusetshwaleni. Mayisuka kashabalala iya spiwe. Mayisuka ngale ya ipuwo. Mayisuka ngale. It circulates there only.
Yeah. But it's a critical issue.
It's a serious one.
Sure. Are you sad?
I'm sad.
Everyone is sad.
But it's circulator kanjani ku-Kells bathengisela amahudi ngama-500.
It's a topic for another day. Guys, thanks for having us for today. We've had Bayanda, a very, very powerful person, as you've heard with your own ears, you've seen with your own eyes. This is Talks with Kells. Thank you for joining us. God bless.
I feel like we need a part.
Oh, we need a part 2.
Best thing in the morning. Mama ngifuna ukuyekole. Ukuhlala ngibuke nje mana mangisakhone. Kube ngiyasipana kube nathi asokole. Best thing in the morning. Mama ngifuna ukuyekole. Ukuhlala ngibuke nje mana mangisakhone. Kube ngiyasipana kube manje asokole. Ngithi mama ngizobuya. Mama ngiyofuna umsebenzi. Yaza kukhona la mama